just started running really poorly and I got a check engine light, so let's look into that. Hey there, boys and girls of the YouTube world. Today, the Duff Dog and I are going to take this 1967 GMC that is already LS swap and make it a little bit better. I picked this thing up for $4,000 on Facebook Marketplace. The cheapest LS swap you're going to probably do is in one of these things or a square body. But anyway, like I said, I picked this thing up, drove it on the trailer. He said it needs two things. The diff is welded solid.
There goes the new concrete.
I don't know what's wrong with that. Two-wheel peels? Sounds great. And he said it needs tires. And that is why I hauled it home, because if somebody says it needs tires, I'm gonna say that it needs tires, because I like having good tires on things. As you can tell, this is a 67. It's got the small back window. The big back window is an option. Doesn't have marker lights. Somebody put these emblems on the fender where there would be a marker light. They are not off this pickup. I think they're off a Caprice or a Chevelle or an Impala. It's got a little rust in the fender. It's got black painted rally wheels with white letters on it, and they really don't look that bad on the front for sure. It's got side exit exhaust that is way too loud. I did ask him how the exhaust was, and he said it's not that loud. Well, that was a lie. These rear tires, not as good. They're a 30 by 950/15 light truck tire. They're pretty old. We should probably replace those. Yeah, it's pretty good, Duff says. Did you find a bone? You look good at that new haircut. The floor's got some rust in them. It was originally a 4-speed pickup. They did take the clutch pedal out at least. And since it was a 4-speed pickup, they had to put a shifter in it. So they used this nice low car, which I actually don't hate, but I also don't love. We interrupt your regular scheduled shenanigans and bring you this Mortske minute about low car performance. Low Car makes American-made, lifetime warranty accessories for your hot rod and other automobile applications. It all started in the early 1960s when a teenager named Skip Walls was driving his first 32 Ford 500 coupe and was frustrated with the availability of quality automotive replacement components. Low Car started as a machinery repair business in the early 1980s, which Skip learned from his father. Interestingly enough, the name Low Car comes from his desire to lower every vehicle as low as he possibly could. Through the early 80s, he worked on hot rods in his spare time and became frustrated with parts availability and quality. By 1988, he had transitioned from machinery service to a high-quality parts manufacturer. They originally started in his attached garage in Southern California, which eventually led to what they have currently in Knoxville, Tennessee, of 52,000 square feet. The product line includes throttle return spring kits, kickdown brackets, throttle cables, dipsticks, and the aforementioned shifters. During a 1988 trip across country to the National Street Rod Association Nationals in Louisville, Kentucky, and building throttle cables by night in hotel rooms, Skip and Debbie determined that this was going to be their livelihood, and on the way home considering move to the southeast. So there you have it, another American-made lifetime warranty company, Low Car Performance. Go check them out. Now back to your regular scheduled shenanigans. It was previously nicknamed the Green Bean, apparently, as it's pinstriped on the glove box, which is pretty neat. He did put a check engine light in the choke hole. So that's one thing with LS swaps. You got to get gauges. You got an electronic speedometer output on the old 4L60E, so our speedometer does not work. Fuel gauge stays the same. Oil pressure, you can put an adapter because that's mechanical. You can also put an adapter for the temp gauge as well. Otherwise, you can spend a whole bunch of money on like Dakota Digital or Classic Instruments digital stuff so that everything works with your LS swap. It's got a pretty dang respectable seat in it as well. So one other thing to look for is the wire harness. You can see they got some add-on relays and fuses in there. I'm guessing one's for the fuel pump. So those are a couple of the biggest things that I look at for LS swaps. How the exhaust is done, how the wiring is done, how the gauges work, what engine mounts they use, what cooling system they use, what throttle system they use. So let's take a look at that stuff under the hood. You can open the hood, sir? That'd be much appreciated. Oh, you're enjoying that bone? You're a gentleman and a scholar. This is an earlier LS, so 99 to 02 pickup. It's got the drive-by cable. This is a non-power steering application, so they had to reroute the belt situation. I have driven this thing around the yard a couple times, and that's one thing I remember is it needs power steering. So we should be able to get a power steering pump off of a 99 to 06 Chevy pickup, and then get a sector out of a square body, because they're a lot more popular and easier to find than they are for the 67, 72s. And they also bolt right on. It's a non-power brake setup. Yeah, there you can see the stock manifolds. I'm guessing they had to clearance the frame just a little bit. Still running the old mechanical fan. It's got a stock style radiator. It's aluminum with plastic tanks, but it's going in the stock spot. It's using the 99 to 06 radiator hose. Another thing to check out is how they did the air box or air intake. This is super common. The thing I don't like about these is they just kind of leave them flopping in the wind. The other thing is how they do the steam port, and apparently he's just got her JB Schmood in here and zip tied to a heater hose adapter, so we could probably improve that. And also how they do the radiator cooling hoses. This AN stuff is acceptable. I like hard steel lines, but this is about as good as you get. And one other thing to look at is the harness. This is a stock modified harness, but you can buy aftermarket harnesses. They're a whole lot cleaner. But if you do it yourself, it's a lot cheaper, and then also you can troubleshoot it if you did it yourself. Another thing to check for is the fuel system. In this application, it's behind the seat, so the big upgrade would be to put something underneath the bed and then have a built-in fuel pump. This, since it's behind the seat, it's got an inline fuel pump. Makes it easier to replace, but they also don't last as long, and they're also super noisy. So applications like a 55 to 57 Chevy, a Tri-5 like old DD Speed Shop does, or a first gen Camaro 67 to 69, you can buy an entire tank that just drops right in, set up for fuel injection, has a high pressure pump built right in it. You can buy an inline fuel pump for anywhere between 100 and you can go up to infinity for how nice a one you want to get. But I think the ones that I usually get are about 150 bucks. So that's what they used to be. And then you got to have all the associated fittings and plumbing. Here we go. What's on the keychain? Is that a John Deere? Nationwide business. Oh, it's for a 97 Buick. That's a lie. She did. Also, he's got the OBD port underneath the dash in a nice location. It looks like he's got a square body gas pedal in there because the old 67s would have had a mechanical rod. You need the cable for these LS swaps. Hey, Boney, you want to go grab the booster pack? All right, let's assume that black is ground. Let's see if this bad boy will fire up. The beauty of fuel injection. Sounds pretty good in idle. I think that's 2.5 inch pipe. Let's give her the old meat and potatoes and I'll show you. She's rowdy. Fuel gauge came up to full. Temp, I guess we'll have to keep an eye on. Battery, it looks like it's charging, so maybe they got that hooked up. But they didn't plumb in the mechanical oil pressure gauge. Let's get this thing in the shop. We'll go for a ride. Load up. Oh yeah, she steers hard. But she steers. Stops hard, but it stops. So we could upgrade it to power brakes. We could really upgrade it to power disc brakes, but this thing is a 6-lug with manual drum brakes. 71, they went to 5-lug disc brakes, so that would be a nice upgrade. Then you get a few more wheel options too. With the 6-lug, the main options that I see are your stock steel wheels, dog dishes, slots like the 67 Chevy's got. Those are actually Jeep wheels, or the rallies like you got on here. Obviously there's a bunch of different aftermarket options, but these are the wheels you find in the wild on a budget. Brake light comes on when I push the brakes. We might want to look into that, huh, Duff? Safety third. I was cranking it over there and the battery was dead, but it's got no neutral safety switch, so that's one thing about the aftermarket shifters that I do not like. And also it's bolted to the floor pan, so she's a little loose, not very rigid. So we already know we need a battery. We should change the oil. The guy that I got it from said it had been sitting a couple of years. He bought it from another guy who bought it from another guy. I think that guy was the guy who built it. I actually messaged him and he's like, yeah, that pickup's pretty rough. That was my first LS swap, which I'm like, if that was your first LS swap, I think you did a pretty dang good job. But anyway, we got to check this brake fluid and probably want to give her a good once over because it's been sitting for a while. Let's check them brake. Ooh, that reservoir is empty. There's your brake problem. That one's empty and that one's about half full. We're probably going to want to top that off, figure out where that leak is at. So on a 67 to 72, the battery should be on the passenger side. This has been relocated to the driver's side, I presume, so that they can get right at that bad boy, the junction box for the power right there by the alternator. Also, it's a lot easier to run the air intake to the passenger side as you don't have to go around the alternator to run it over to the driver's side. Does not look like we're gonna have heat, however. Those hoses are definitely not hooked up and the Bluetooth heater cord does not function very well, I'm guessing. That's easy enough to hook up. Just hook onto those two outlets right there by the old water pump. But my guess is they're not hooked up because that heater core is leaking away. Let's get our battery swapped out here. Looks like Sugar Mill Tim is our battery sponsor this week. You too can be a battery sponsor by going to mortske.com. Not only do you get to be a battery sponsor if you enter, you can also be entered to win the old LS OBS 5-speed swapped hot rod that we are giving away right now. You get a pile of entries for becoming a battery sponsor and you get a shout out. You could also win that thing and $3,000 cash. And if you choose not to take the pickup, you could get $20,000. That's right. If you don't want the pickup, you can get $20,000. Also, we got 5 runners up who each get $100 a piece. So head on over to mortske.com. For every dollar you spend there, it gets you a chance to win the LS swapped OBS. Let's get this battery installed. I may have found out why our battery is dead. Sure looks like our brake lights are on, although the sun is shining right in here. It is a gorgeous day. Spring is finally here in North Dakota, so I kind of want to get this thing out, take it for a rip. That's why I chose to do a driver instead of a will it run this week. But anyway, we got to adjust the brake light switch or lubricate the pedal or put a return spring on it or something so that this doesn't happen. Also, so that our brake lights aren't on and somebody doesn't think we're stopping when we're not, but we don't want a dead battery again. She's definitely stuck down. Oh yeah. Well, maybe it just needs a master cylinder and that's why it's not returning. Feels a lot better now that there's fluid in it. But there is a little adjustment on that rod there. And there's also adjustment on the brake switch as well. I just let it return back on its own. Let's see if the brake lights are on. I think we're good. I'm sure it had something to do with there not being any brake fluid in the master cylinder. Let's just hope so anyway. We'll keep the booster pack in the cab for a while, just in case. Let's take a look at the bottom of the old green bean and see if we can identify where the brake leak is at. So where I usually look is anywhere there's a rubber seal. Master cylinder usually leaks down the firewall inside and or outside. Didn't see any leaks there. So next we'll check wheel cylinders, seeing how this doesn't have calipers because it's drum brakes all the way around, and then hoses. Otherwise there's some connections, but usually inverted flare connections don't leak. Maybe when they're new and you put them together, you built a system from scratch, but old connections don't seem to leak. But otherwise, rusted holes in steel lines is the other thing to look for. But usually that thing spits all your fluid everywhere and you know right away. But who knows, since it was already empty, we might have a hole in a line somewhere. So this is an aftermarket front bumper. I think this guy said that he put that on there. So those are brand new bumper brackets. Of course, the inner fender's rusty where the battery sat and that fender cup, which is common. Also looks like we need some core support hardware. I'm guessing they had that all apart to do the LS swap and then forgot to put hardware and bushings on there. Same thing on the passenger side. Don't worry, the whole front end can fall off, not a big deal.
I'm in danger.
It does not have a sway bar, which was an option. Looks like somebody put brand new control arms on the bottom and springs up front. Looks like those hoses have been on there a while on the brakes, so those don't look like they're new. Must have just bought new control arms so that they didn't have to rebuild them. Got plenty of grease on them, so they've been serviced. Another thing to look at on an LS swap is engine mounts. It looks like they use some type of aftermarket mounts adapted to the original 6-cylinder mounts. Nothing crazy in there, everything looks good. This brake hose looks like it's new. So if our wheel cylinder's leaking, it's probably gonna leak right there, but usually they run out and onto the rim, so let's see which one's wet. Looks like they put new shocks on it when they did the lower control arms. We should probably change the oil because it's been sitting for a while. Those engine mounts are adjustable, and those are dirty dingoes. I don't have much experience with them. I do like the adjustable part, but I don't like how the hardware can come loose and then they can unadjust themselves. But engines usually don't want to shift back and forth, so it should be fine. This is interesting. They left the catalytic converters on it. Usually they get rid of those and then just use the front oxygen sensors, but this one they are just using the front oxygen sensors, but have a cat on it and no rear oxygen sensor. And that's why it's so loud, because there is no muffler either, just the catalytic converters. There's our fuel lines. Looks like they use some AN stuff, so that should be rated for high pressure, I would hope. There's our inline fuel pump. I would guess that's a Walbro or a Walbro style. I don't like that they got high pressure braided line on the return and then feeding to the fuel pump, but then from the fuel pump ahead, it looks like just regular rubber. Looks like a whole bunch of hose clamps and some P-clamps that aren't attached to anything, so we could do a little cleaning up in there, I would say. Make sure everything's tight on our shifter setup, so that's something that you gotta check on LS swaps, what they did for a shifter as well. The beauty of these pickups is you can use a stock pickup pan. You don't have to buy a low profile pan. Because those, by the time you get the pan and the pickup tube is like 500 bucks. You can probably spend even more than that if you wanted to. Or you could be like Brent at Half-Ass Customs and modify your own pan, but that's a lot of work. Usually those get sucked up to about the bottom level of the filter here, so they're flush with the transmission pan. Otherwise they hang way down like this application. I would say that that's just a crusty old 4L60. Doesn't look like it's rebuilt or anything. Another thing with an LS swap is see what your drive line is, because obviously you got to modify your stock drive line. I don't like how far that sits out, but it shouldn't slide back and forth because this is a 2-piece drive shaft. It should just be stationary the whole time. Hanger bearing looks nice and tight. Looks like our pinion seal is leaking on our welded diff, but I don't know if we're going to fix that seeing how we're not using this diff. So you know how I was saying square body, you steal the power steering sector off of one of those and put on here, and then you can get power steering. On this application, seeing how it's leaf springs, which most GMCs are, but some Chevys are, we should be able to get a rear end out of a square body, which would be a 5-lug, bolt it right in here, and then we'd have a 5-lug rear and get rid of this welded diff. I suppose this won't even turn because it's welded. Yep, and it's in park. It does look like they put some new Monroes back here. Both rear brakes look a little bit grimy, so I'm guessing those are the ones that are leaking. Looks like we got some new lines back here. Doesn't appear that they replaced the hose, however. Also looks like the driver's side is a little bit greasy too, so if I were a betting man, I would bet that our leak is our rear wheel cylinders. And yes, that is a 10 bolt. I've always said that these things were all 12 bolts. And every 67 to 72 Chevrolet that I've been underneath with coil springs has been a 12 bolt. But this is the second 10 bolt with leaf springs that I have found. So I am sorry, you could get these things with a 10 bolt, but almost every one I've seen has been a 12 bolt. I don't see a tag on our 12 bolt that tells us what gear ratio we got. I'm guessing 308s. That seems like pretty common with these things. Taillights? Yeah, about that. I'm guessing we're gonna have to check into that. We do have brake lights, and that's all you really need. But if we got brake lights, that means the green and the yellow should be working, so that should be tied to our blinker switch, so our turn signals should be working if everything's working up there, but brown for our taillights might not be hooked up. I can't believe there's so many wires that aren't connected. Only 2 of them are connected. We'll worry about that later. Of course, it's got the aftermarket tow bumper. Check this bad boy out. You just drop your safety chains through there. You don't even need a hook on them. Looks like somebody's, ooh, look at that. Somebody put some drop shackles back here. I noticed the new hardware. It's got the extended shackles. They got her all the way up. Still sits too high in my opinion, so we got to cut some coils up front and do a flip kit if we want to get her as low as I want it. But let's just get her running first. Typical 67 to 72, a bunch of rust in the inner rockers, but the front cab mounts are solid. The rears are good as well. And on both sides, this cab is definitely worth fixing. Get yourself some inner and outer rockers and some floors and some cab corners and should be good to go. You can tell it's a manual steering box by how tiny it is and how long the shaft sticks out. A power box is much larger and the shaft is flush with the front of the box. But another reason we should swap this box out is check this. Watch this shaft here. That should not go up and down. Good candidate for a power steering upgrade. I heard some clanging and banging when I was cranking this thing over, so let me show you what I think it is. You know, I was saying some applications you got to buy different exhaust manifolds or headers. Well, check this out. Usually you got to clearance the frame rail to get these big old clunky manifolds on there. And you can see they did a little torching on the driver's side. And they had to do the same on the passenger side, but I don't think they removed quite enough. There's no air gap in there, so I'm gonna take the torch, make a little clearance. I don't like using the torch because I don't like the jagged edges and the slag that it leaves, but I can't get up in there with anything else to cut it out that I can think of. And I'm definitely not pulling that manifold to cut it out better, so torch it is. Maybe we could get the tiny cutoff wheel, but that would suck. We've got clearance now, Clarence.
2-4.
We have clearance, Clarence.
Roger, Roger. What's our vector, Victor?
Well, the previous owner said he hadn't driven it a couple years, so let's drain this oil, see how she looks. Maybe he gave it a quick oil change when he threw that new battery in there, we'll see. No, looks pretty black. Good thing we changed that. We don't want to ruin our 250,000 mile LS. Just kidding, I don't know anything about this LS. He didn't tell me anything out of it. It's a 99 to 02 SUV or van or pickup motor, no doubt. Oh, it's a Purolator. Pure oil now. Purolator. Purolator.
You got your pure oil now. You got your pure oil later. Purolator oil feels good.
I don't even know where you buy a Purolator. What parts store sells those? Purolator's getting replaced with a 1042 Napa Gold or a 51042 Wick. Same thing. Here we go. 6 quarts of the finest 5W30 Amazon Basics has to offer. The date code on those front tires is the second week of 2022, so they're only 3 1/4 years old. But anyway, these back ones, I didn't even look for a date code. They are old. They're so old that they are made in the good old US of A. Plus they're white letters, so check out what we got. More rallies in the correct argent silver or argent gray with restored center caps with riveted on bow ties, beauty ring center caps, new hardware, and some Hankook Kinergies. These things are from 2018, but they've been inside and they're not all dry rotted. Thanks to Wally, our 67 Chevy C10, for donating those. I was just gonna put 2 of these on the back because these rear ones are terrible, but we can't be driving around with black wheels in the front and Argent on the back, so let's just throw all 4 on this bad boy. Oh yeah, she's ready for Barrett Johnson now. All right, we got some DD Speed Shop inspired license plates installed, and guess what? We got these old ones from the meth state. And I tell you what, if you head over to mortske.com and buy a t-shirt or sweatshirt, because that's what these will be easy to ship with, and not only will you get a chance to win that LS swapped OBS and $3,000 cash, or $20,000 if you should choose to take the cash, and first prize runners up get $100 a piece. There's 5 of those, but you might get a chance to win some license plates. So we're gonna throw these South Dakota Meth State historical license plates in a couple of people's orders on the dates listed below. And not only do you get a chance at winning these, but you get a chance at winning the best LS swapped OBS that I'm ever gonna own. And if you don't need a t-shirt and you don't want license plates, you can get a screwdriver or a can koozie or a keychain or decals, all kinds of goodies. So go check it out, mortske.com. This baby's legal now. That's right, this one come with a title, and we didn't go to jail in South Dakota. Well, that really changed the look of it, didn't it, Duff? The black wheels look kind of tough, but this really churches her up a bit. I think the side exit exhaust needs to go now, and the mud flaps, and about 5 inches between the front wheel and 7 between the rear wheel. Get her down where she needs to be. But anyway, Duff says let's go for a ride the way it is, and then we'll make some adjustments for there. So let's put some miles on this bad boy. All right, we are in the green bean. She's all gassed up. I got my OBD2 scanner. It's a launch. Does way more things than I know how to do. Anyway, yeah, we're just gonna start cruising. It's gonna be loud. It's super windy. We're gonna have the windows down, so don't expect a lot of talking, because, you know, straight pipes on an LS, silliness. But anyway, I wish we could see how many miles we're gonna put on it, but since we don't have an odometer, we'll just have to calculate it via the GPS later. Let's go for a cruise in the old green bee and see how she works. Tough. You didn't even point out the dome light. Oh, it's an Eddie Bauer. What are the chances that works? Not good. I'd say we could open the foot vents and get some more air through here, but I think the rust holes in the floor will do that just fine. The old small back window is a little difficult to see when you're backing up, but it's got to be cooler inside because it's shade, right? If it's steel that it's got to go through. Oh yeah, she's going to be noisy. So the one thing about the diff being welded, it's solid, so it wants to push around corners, and the inside wheel wants to scrub. Hopefully I can figure this thing out, and it'll tell us the temperature of the engine. It's an LS. You don't need oil pressure. They don't run hot. It sure would be nice to have a tach, though, so we can tell our speed. Oh, I bet if we get into that code reader, it'll tell us the speed. I'm guessing they didn't put the right tire size and gear ratio, and plus we just changed the tire size, so it's going to be off anyway. What do you think, Duff? Is it all right? So yeah, it's like driving one of them cars in the movies. The steering wheel just is there for a suggestion. We need a horn cap too, so we can scrounge one of them up. What do you think, Duff? Does she boogie? No. It's kind of a turd. Tranny seems a little squishy too. And it smells like exhaust in here. I think we got an exhaust leak as well. We made her about 5 miles down the road. The tranny is not happy, and I never checked it. So we're gonna head back to the shop and check it, because no point checking it on the side of the road because we don't have any fluid to add in there anyway. Just goes to tell you that just because you spent $4,000 on an LS swap pickup, it's not ready to drive across the country. Hopefully it's just a little fluid. We top her off and she's good to go. My bad for not checking. Hopefully we don't smoke the pump in the 4L60, huh? That's another thing with LS swaps. What transmission do they use? That adds a lot to the value. In my opinion, an overdrive or a manual transmission swap adds $1,000 to the value, or depending on what it is. You know, if the 4L60 is all rebuilt, that's $1,000 to $1,500 these days. So, and I don't trust used transmissions. This is why. This one didn't look super wet underneath, so like, didn't seem like it was leaking, but we'll get back and check it. Seems like every transmission we tear into is low. So, Whoopsies. All right, back at the shop. Didn't make it very far. Transmission, she's a little sloppy. Slippy. 60E things. Yeah, we were like 3 quarts low on fluid, so hopefully that fixes it, and hopefully we didn't smoke our 4L Slippy. Anyway, yeah, that adds to the cost of the old LS swap too. I think overdrives are a big value over like a turbo 350 or a power glide. Let's hope the fluid fixed it. Oh, she feels way better now. Nice and firm. It's mighty loud in here. Definitely needs the mufflers. And maybe some floor repair. See the mud flap dancing below my toes. The steering has a cartoonish amount of play in it. Surely it's not that worn out steering box. Duff seems to approve. It smells really rich, but no check engine lights, no codes. It's running 199 degrees according to the OBD2, and the speed is correct on the OBD2, so apparently the tire size and the gear ratio that this thing was programmed for is either correct or just luckily ended up the same as it was, which is probably what I'm guessing. The latter. But anyway, it's running cool. The old OBD2 does not give you oil pressure, so I don't know what that's doing. We'll just assume it's fine. Another one bites the dust. This used to be the international dealer over here. There was the movie theater. This was the lumber yard, and apparently it is now rubble. Looks like they're saving the tin buildings, but the old 2-story brick building is gone. That used to be a gas station. Part of the building's still there, and that was the Masons. That was the Mason Lodge. Anyway, small towns, main streets are diminishing. Oh dang it, between this steering and the diff being welded solid, it does not want to go around corners. We got to put power steering on this thing and address that rear diff. Hopefully I can find something with some good gears. I got a rear end sitting there, but it came from a 5.7 diesel. So I'm sure it's got like, I think we looked, it's like 241s or 273s, just horrendous. With overdrives, it'd be nice to find like 373s, maybe 350s. I don't want to go anything below the 308s. That was the old Ford dealer. And this was another gas station. I don't remember what brand that one was. That was the Minneapolis Moline dealership. That's not there anymore. And there is the remaining lumberyard slash fireworks store. Duff, Ford F1, 4850. Duff, you ever been to Marvin, South Dakota? Just about a mile off of 212 here. That's right, we made her to the meth state. Anyway, I've never even heard of Marvin, South Dakota, so let's check her out. Ooh, what's that? LTD 4-door? What do we got here? Oldsmobile? Looks like a dynamic 88, it says. About a 66, I'd say. Just think if that old shed could talk. Doesn't look like there's much going on in old Marvin. The house has a dish on the front and an AC unit outside. This here is Lloyd Street. I don't know if that even goes through. What's this? The bar? Church? The Marvin Bar. But they got some cold grain belts in there, Duff. They got a post office yet, Duff. This must be a big town. Oh, is that a Boxwood green F350? Dual rear wheels? Heck yeah, it is, with dump bed. We're gonna have to find out what shade of green is on the old green bean. It's bean green. Dang, is that a Polera, the little shorty van? Most of these small towns, it's like a handful of people that own the entire town. Here's our square body. She's a dually 4-wheel drive crew cab. This guy must be the mailman. It's full of Buicks. Chevy Celebrity. When was the last time you saw one of them in the wild? It's nice to get out in the early spring before the trees get leaves on them. That way you can see in the trees what's going on out there. See that? 69 to 72 little flatbed, Duff. What do we got up here? Chevy Cavaliers in super loud colors. Looks like That place is no more. This is the pallet collector. Oh, it's a unibody, 3/4 ton, cut down in a trailer. There's about 6 houses here, so I don't know how they got themselves a post office. There you go, folks. Marvin, South Dakota. We're gonna go to Millbank. That's funny thing is, that's where I bought this thing. There's an OBS tailgate in white, pretty nice shape for 40 bucks. We're gonna go check it out. Maybe try to find some ice cream. So by the time we get home, we're gonna have 250 miles on this bad boy. So far, she's working good, running at about 205, and at 65, 70 mile an hour, it's 2,000 RPM. So good cruiser. Your worthless information of the day on Millbank is Millbank was named for Jeremiah Millbank and was also the birthplace of American Legion Baseball in 1925. Duff, you know what the slogan is for Millbank? You'll like Millbank. So far hasn't really impressed me. Ooh, Corvette C5, yellow. All the high-vis colors. I think there's a cheese factory here, and then something to do with granite. They do some like granite mining, something like that. That's about all I know what's going on here. Dang, 35 Ford truck parked in front of the greenhouse. Guessing their business is blooming right now. See what I did there? Dad jokes. There's our square body. Ooh, Ford tractors. Buick 5 maybe? Nice little town in Millbank, don't you think, Duff? Pretty neat bridge, huh, Duff? No railing or nothing. Just a little baby creek. Got a mallard out there. Oh, it's a bridge on both sides. See that squirrel above that big tree? Also, the wood ticks are now out in full force. Won't be long and we'll have mosquitoes. Package acquired. 40 bucks, OBS tailgate in white. It's got a dinger in it, but I don't think it was ever installed. Somebody painted it, never got the guts in it. Who knows what happened, but it's got a dent in it. But for 40 bucks, it'll fill a hole. Looks pretty good. All right, let's go find that ice cream. Kind of want to do a big smoky burnout on this bridge, but better not. I think Duff wants to go for a swim. She's a little warm, I think 78 for a high today. It's toasty. Then yesterday morning when I got up, it was 34 degrees, so North Dakota weather can't decide what it wants to do. Worthless information of the day on Ortonville is Ortonville was named for Cornelius Newt Orton. It is also the Big Stone County seat, the home of Mike Hunt. Yes, that's correct. Mike Hunt, a professional American football player. 55-6 pickup and a 57 two-door hardtop. Gear oil signs, some fire trucks. Ooh, pick up the four-wheel drive short bed. It's a GMC too. It's got a bunch of cool signs there. There it is, the DQ. Made it though. Ice cream is cheaper than therapy. Man, this place is packed. I got a line wrapped around the building, had to wait a bit, but I got my Reese's Pieces cookie dough blizzard. $7.09. These things ain't cheap. All right, Duff says, let's go look for some junk. See what the big city Ortonville, Minnesota has to offer. Somebody's real deep into the old Chevy venture. What's that? Courthouse? Pretty big brick building. Big Stone County Courthouse. Probably don't want to do burn out there. Do a little downtown, huh, Duff? Oh, that was a cool old gas station on the corner at one point. I do believe this is Big Stone Lake. Got a street that goes right alongside the old river here. Well, wide spot in the river, maybe. That Camaro Duff. Like a 79 to 81. Gotta see if we can find a square body in Ortonville here before we leave. Well, it just started running really poorly, and I got a check engine light, so let's look into that. Oh boy. Engine coolant above 268. We're getting hot, Duff. We need to get on the road. Hopefully we can get out of town here and find a highway. This is what happens when you don't have a fan shroud. Uh-oh. Nuclear. I just checked the live data. 275. That's a new high score. Hopefully we didn't take this thing nuclear. Let's try to get some airflow over that radiator. I think the hills and idling around town and no fan shroud. Bad news. This is why you put a temp gauge on your LS. It's not going up, so I wonder if 275 is as high as they read. Grapes. We just topped her off with coolant, so we should be good there. She definitely doesn't sound happy, does it, though? Just kidding, 279, we're going up. 280. Guess we should have stopped at that park back there and hung out for a bit. Now we gotta find somewhere to pull over. 282, going the wrong way. We got good news and bad news. The bad news is I think it's warm, but I think it's just low on coolant. But we just topped it off, so where did it go? I don't see any leaks. Sounds like that's pushing out. Good news is we stopped at a campground here, and there's a water spigot. Top her off with some tap water, huh, Duff? The old Lakeshore RV Park. A nice place to enjoy your ice cream. I feel like this is a bad idea. I'm gonna eat my ice cream and wait. Here goes nothing. Well, it's down, but it's not way down. Found the problem. The belt exited the chat. Huh, wonder when that broke. And it's not an off-the-shelf belt because it doesn't have power steering. And I didn't know that the belt went because I didn't have a temp gauge or a charging gauge or power steering. If I'd had a power steering, I'd have known exactly when it left the chat. Well, we're not driving home without a belt. We could drive home without a fan, not without a belt. Should have shut her down a little earlier, I guess. Oh boy. Let me make some phone calls. All right, here comes our ride. The old man lives about an hour and a half from here, hour and 15 minutes. And conveniently, he's got the same HP trailers as me, so we're gonna get her loaded up. Oh, he even brought his sidekick. Petey! That's his name, Petey. All right, here we go. All tied down, head for home. Be a real good excuse to put a power steering pump on it so that I can tell when the belt comes off, and we can also use a standard belt. Well, we made her back to the ranch, huh, Duff? Thanks to Dad's 6-liter powered GMC here. I think we got all of the mayflies last night. It's that time of year. Anyway, that thing's making a noise. I think it's the transfer case or the diff, but so we're gonna put that on the lift while we got it here to look at it for him. Let's get this unloaded, trailer unhooked, and we'll get that on the lift. Here we go. Oh yeah, and I bent my new license plate on the trailer. Whoops. Sorry, DD Speed Shop. All right. So Dad just serviced that Suburban a few thousand miles ago and changed all the fluids in the front and rear diffs and the transfer case. Everything's full, so I don't know what's going on there. We'll have to drive a little bit more, do some digging, but it's making a whirring noise. And the only thing I could think of to test was the transfer case, and so I put that in 4-wheel drive. Doesn't change. I guess we could try putting it in 4 low. But anyway, something's making a lot of noise in there, and I can't figure it out. And you were no help. But what did we find? That's right, an LS accessory bracket with a power steering pump. Ooh, it's off a 6-liter, so it's got 2 return hoses. We can plug that one off. This would have been for something with a hydro boost on it, and we don't have hydro boost on this, but we got nothing on this bad boy. Anyway, this is gonna hold our serpentine belt system better. We still gotta round up a power steering sector, but let's get this on there. Should just be a couple bolts, take our alternator off, take our bracket off for our electrical, and then a bolt there, and a couple bolts there. We'll grab the best idler out of the bunch. That one's got a newer GM part number on it, so we'll probably run that one. And also, I got some power steering hoses. Hopefully they're the same as what we got on our sector that we round up, but they probably won't. Already got our battery unhooked. Let's start pulling the accessory bracket off.
Frame that hung out in the trees finally getting put to use.
All right, this is a square body, was a 5.7 diesel, this donor chassis I've been saving for a while. Mickelson got the front end to put underneath his 68 Chevy pickup to get it to 5 lugs and disc brakes, but the power steering sector is still on it, so let's rob that, and maybe we'll do a little measuring for the rear end to see if that'll fit in here too. And then we won't push through the corners if we got a one-wheel peel as opposed to this Lincoln locker that we got going on now. But I think I remember looking, and this thing had some terrible gear ratio for a diesel. All right, let me show you the difference in these boxes. So here's our square body power box, and there's our little baby 67 to 72 manual box. Look at that, check lube. You think anybody's ever checked that before? I never have. So you know how I was talking about how that shaft sticks out? Yeah, see how far it sticks out? This one doesn't stick out, but dimensionally, they're the same. Now would be a good time to put a rag joint on there, if we had one. The other thing you'll notice, see how this has got 3 mounting holes and we got 4? Well, the frame's already drilled for it because this is the same box that they would have put on these if they were factory power steering. So I think everything will just plug and play. We'll throw her on there, see how it goes. I'm gonna pop these lines off first because they're gonna be in the way. I think we gotta trim out the inner fender for access to those, and then I'm gonna see what style of fitting this is so we can see if we can make something work out of that mess. Also, I seem to recall that you had to trim the bumper bracket a little bit because there's different bumper brackets for power steering and manual steering, but it's been a long time since I did this, so I could be wrong. Power steering sector installed, everything plugged right in on the steering shaft and on the pitman arm. We did have to cut a little cast iron tab off the top of the sector in order to clear the inner fender. Mojo's got to blow off his Easter outfit here to get her all cleaned up before he goes home, cleaning up them small block Chevy heads. Anyway, I had to clearance that bumper bracket like I said earlier, so everything's wrapped up down here. Now we're gonna have to go up top and clearance that inner fender and figure out our power steering hoses. I wanna get that all done before we get our power steering pump in place. Hey, check this out. We got Nailed It construction decals available. So when Chin and I and the crew go do construction stuff, because you can't find any contractors around here, we're wood hacks. And so every time we butcher something, we're like, nailed it. So go ahead and get your Nailed It construction decals at mortske.com. For every $1 you spend on Nailed It construction decals or other decals, you get a chance to win the LS swapped OBS, $3,000 cash, or $20,000. So yeah, go check that out. And there's 5 first place runner-up, get $100 each. Anyway, check out what I did with the power steering. So I went and dug through my stash power steering pumps, and this fitting is for inverted flare. This is the one I took out of that pump, and that is for an O-ring style. And they look to be the same, so hopefully I can just thread this, basically a square body fitting, into an LS pump, and then we can use square body hoses. That way you don't have to get any special fittings or special adapter fittings or special hoses made up. There's a lot of different options on power steering stuff, but I like using the factory stuff. This is on the pressure side. On the return side, we just need a new chunk of hose. So easy enough, low pressure. But on the pressure side, and you can cut them and weld them, and there's options, but I like using factory stuff whenever you can. So that's what we're gonna do. Provided this thread's in there. I don't know why it wouldn't, but it might. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Give her a couple ugga-duggas. Good to go. One more for good measure. Don't strip out the pump. Nice. Now hopefully this pump is good. All right, we got our power steering all hooked up, filled up, leaks everywhere because I forgot to plug the port for the hydro boost. And let's take a look at this thing. Speaking of the hydro boost port, I should probably put a clamp on that so that doesn't come off there. But anyway, everything's all hooked up. This factory hose, I don't really like it the way it's looped up there, but it's all factory stuff. So if we blow this hose out, we just go to the part store and get a new one. Got a cute little short return hose down there. We use the stock used belt we had laying around. So that's the other nice part about this. Now we should be using a stock belt off at 99 to 02. We should have the stock routing. Apparently, I put a post on Instagram. Somebody that owned this thing before said, yeah, it liked to do that a lot. It's been hot a few times. So I think it had something to do with the routing of said belt. There just wasn't enough tension on it, or it was too long, too short, whatever. But it's a lot better now. It's gonna steer better. It's all factory stuff. The other thing I looked at, they made a lot of changes on the square bodies. From 73 to 80 was basically the first generation, and then 81 to 87, that's when they got better hood hinges. The fenders are different, the door panels are different, the fuel doors are different, all that. But the other thing they changed is the power steering hoses. I do believe if you've got an 81 to 87 Chevrolet pickup, you should be able to use the stock power steering hose, and it should hook right up to the power steering pump on an LS. So if I was gonna do this swap again, I would look for a power steering sector off of an 81 to 87, put on this pickup, and then use the same corresponding hose from that pickup, and it should hook up because they are the O-ring design. I just checked on Rock Auto because I was looking for hoses, and I was looking at hoses for the old 86 that we got out front that was a V6 that we converted to a V8, and that had the O-ring style fittings. So there you go, use the later style box and hose, and it should be a direct bolt-on swap. Let's fire this thing up, see if we can get the power steering working and get the air out of it and check for leaks and all that good stuff after I put a clamp on that plug. You ready to unleash the fury that is power steering squeal? Comment down below if you've ever hooked up power steering lines backwards. I know I have. We used to do derby cars. We do Ford LTDs with small block Chevys in it, and if you flip them around, and we have to weld our own pressure lines because they didn't make one that went from a Ford to a Chevy, or we weren't smart enough. But anyway, when you hook them up backwards, and at that time I didn't know if you did enough searching you could find the right line, so we cut them and welded them and hope we didn't have any leaks. But I hooked them up backwards once, and the steering wheel shakes back and forth very violently, so don't do that. I'm sure we'll be just fine since we're using all GM stuff on this. Yeah, that's what happens when you put a Chevy in a Ford, built Ford tough with Chevy stuff. They don't like it. It's not whining like it's empty, but it ain't steering like it's got power steering. But it's empty. Oh, if you get them empty enough, they don't even whine. Oh, yeah. They're nice. I think she's gonna work, and she's gonna work good. And guess what it cost me? Nothing. It was all junk I had laying around, so keep your junk, kids. Duff says since the power steering setup worked so good on this thing, let's steal the rear end out of it. Should steal that exhaust. It's too bad somebody kinked that side. Anyway, I did some measuring, and it's about 42 3/8 inches from center to center for the spring perch. So this thing in theory should bolt right in. So I'm gonna go ahead and start doing that. Got to unhook our shocks, our brake hose, our drive shaft, park brake cables, all that stuff, and get this out of there. Yes, I know we'll have 5-lug on the rear and 6-lug on the front, but they make 5-lug rally wheels that basically match those ones, so nobody's ever gonna know.
Nobody's gonna know. They're gonna know.
And we don't carry a spare anyway on pretty much all of our junk, so it's not a big deal. It'll be fine. And you could re-drill these to 6-lug if you really wanted to, or you could re-drill that front end to 5-lug, or if you really wanted to get crazy. I think you gotta swap ball joints, but you could take the spindles off of one of these and put on there and then convert everything to 5-lug discs. That's what I would do. Put some ball joints in it, go to discs. Does that feel good? Oh yeah, get all the scratches. Yeah, good stuff. All right, let's get a, ooh, it'll be an upgrade to a 12 bolt, right? Heck yeah, 12 bolt. I don't know if the shock mounts are in the same spot, but we don't care about those. I am just sick of that welded diff. I should go out and do some pretty wild burnouts with that thing. Well, it's 2-wheel peel, but I'm getting old and I don't appreciate that stuff like I used to. All right, let's do this. It's a nice, beautiful, windy day. Thanks for supervising over there, Duff, except for when I was making too much noise with the impact and then you decided to run off. Let's take the telehandler, lift this thing up. Hopefully we can harvest a diff and a drive shaft and maybe even some exhaust out of this deal. The neighbors are out making dust. Hopefully get some beans in the ground. All right, I'm gonna go dump this back in the trees. I don't know what's left to save there. A couple fuel tanks full of diesel fuel. Leaf springs maybe? A terrible tow bumper? The license plate light's probably the best part. We've pretty much picked her clean. Unfortunate if I broke a windshield out of the telehandler doing this. Ooh, yellow Pete. Ooh, that one stretched way out. Oh, hey, next to this old Ford frame looks like a good spot. You just hang out there for safekeeping, little buddy. Thanks for your service. Definitely don't walk underneath that. All right, let me show you the differences that I already see. The brake hose is a little bit further towards the passenger side than it was on the square body, but I think we can make something work. We need a new hose. Anyway, the shocks are both on the front side of this differential. This one was on the rear on the square body, so we'll have to make a new bracket or figure something out there. The U-bolts wrapped underneath the other end and then went over the top, but shouldn't be a big deal. Everything should be just fine there. The universal joint retaining straps were just that, straps on the other one. It's got actual bolts on this one, so that shouldn't be a big deal. Hopefully the universal joint is the same. Hopefully the length is the same so we can reuse this drive line as well. And then undoubtedly the park brake stuff is different, but you guys know we do with that stuff around here. Let's get this thing on the ground and get her swapped over. Struggling with the old drive shaft here. So it should slip on that slip yoke. It looks like that's a newer carrier bearing, but when I pry on it, it just pushes on the carrier bearing. Like so. I don't like that. Well, I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Let's look these two diffs over. This is a square body diff. That's the 67. This thing is a Dana 44. I did not know that they had Dana 44s and 67 to 72 Chevrolet pickups. I think the park brake cables are gonna interchange. You can see where the brake hose is on this 44. It's slightly to the right of the center section. And on the square body, it's right there. But I think we can stretch that hose over far enough. And obviously with the drop shackles in there, we don't need as much. Pretty sure I got a new one of those, so we're gonna put that on there. This width for the spring perch is the same on either one, but you can see that shock mount is in quite a ways and these are tight against it. So I think I'm just gonna cut these off right off the start and then we'll weld them on where they need to be. And then also the Dana 44 has these bump stops in between the spring mounts and the shock mounts. So I don't know what that's for, but we don't need bump stops where we're going. And interestingly enough, the Dana 44 has a drain plug on it, which you don't see very often. No drain plug on the 12 volts. All right, I'm gonna fire the torch back up, get those cut off of there, and we'll be sliding her in no time. It's a 9/16 bolt for the shock mounts on a square body, and it's a 7/16 on the 67 to 72, so I believe we're gonna try to reuse those bad boys. Good grief, this was easy, everybody would do it. U-bolts, you got square ones, that's what the GMC had, and you got round ones, that's what the square body had. And obviously it's significantly thicker in diameter. I think these are like a 1/2 inch, and these are 9/16. So these guys drop over the leaf spring the other direction. I'm showing it upside down, but it's just as wide as the leaf spring. And our new rear end's spring saddle is wider than the leaf spring. So the U-bolt won't fit over that. Also, these U-bolts got these terrible GM cups that fill full of dirt. Not only do they get dirt in there, they get moisture, and these things pretty much rust off. So those things need to be replaced anyway. So then why not use the square body U-bolt Mortske? Well, this thing's got a stack of 9 freaking leaf springs, and the old square body had significantly less. I can't go count because I already hucked it out in the trees. But anyway, these U-bolts were too short. So I had these U-bolts for a flip kit that I was gonna put in this pickup, which I might still, but they're longer, so save the day. Square body, flip kit, U-bolts worked, and then this is the square body spring bracket. Everything should be golden, except for that our brake hose is too short. So we gotta do something there, and I ruined this brake line, so we gotta make a new one. So we may as well just make 2 new brake lines. So the rear end is in place. I'll let you know what we come up with next. Hopefully that drive shaft fits, because I don't want to be looking for bastard joints or making a new drive line, because that would just make my day. Using the shock as a guide, we're just winging it here. Son of a... Those are some good Monroes. Got clearance. Is it in line? Perfect. Stole the long brake line off that other rear end, shortened it up, and now we got brake lines on both sides. So our brake hose isn't quite long enough. It's gonna be pretty taut. So what I'm gonna do is nip off this bracket, drill a hole in it, and move it over here just a bit. I would cut these rivets and take it off there, but those rivets also hold this cross member, so I'm not gonna take those out. I'm just gonna cut her off, drill a couple holes in it, and then we'll move it over to where it's gotta be. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. And there we go. Got our brakes hooked up. We should probably tie up this breather. We just gotta bleed brakes back here. I think we're done. Drive shaft's hooked up. Shocks are hooked up, rear end's bolted in. Check the diff, it's got plenty of oil in it, or some type of liquid, so run it. Check that out, 5 lug, 8-inch rallies on the rear. You won't even be able to tell the difference. On to the next issue. Let me show you what's going on with the driveline. So as the rear end goes up and down, this arc changes here, and so it should slide on this slip yoke here, but it is not sliding. Instead, it's sliding on this slip yoke, which is fine in a 1-piece driveline. Seeing how this is a 2-piece driveline with a hanger here, that shouldn't move back and forth. So right now it's sliding in the notches for the hanger bearing. You don't want that. That should stay stationary in a 2-piece driveline. So we're gonna take this apart, drop this driveline out, which I should have done before I hooked it up, and figure out what is going on right there, because it's supposed to slide. And you know, there's a grease circ on there. It doesn't look like it was ever greased. You want to keep your shaft well lubricated. So let's clean that all up and lube it up and see if it slides back together any better, or if it was bottoming out, or what the heck was going on. There you go. That's the way you want your shaft to slide, huh, Mojo?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, now we can put her back together. The problem with this is it's going to bind in the driveline, and at some point it was probably going to wear out that hanger bearing prematurely, because that hanger bearing is meant to hold a rotational force, not a, I don't know, linear force? Yeah, no linear forces on your rotational bearings. Always grease your slip joints, kids. All right, check that off the list. We got the core sport mounts in there, so the front end won't fall off, hopefully. All right, we're doing pretty good mechanically. Now let's get some aesthetics. These mud flaps, while super functional and actually really thick, nice rubber, are annoying. And we're not going for the farm truck look, so we're gonna get out the old flap wheel and grinder and wrenches and whatever we need. Get these things gone. Yeah, too much farm truck, but those things are nice and thick. What are they, like 3/8 of an inch thick? Ooh, got some lichens on there. They've been on there a few days. All right, got her topped off with coolant and fuel. I got a museum board meeting, so I'm gonna take her on a test drive, see how she works. Maybe even go wash some mayflies off my windshield. I can tell you this though, power steering, way better. Brakes are way better. There was a bunch of air in the system because when we started, the reservoir was empty, so got those all bled up, and with the power steering working, this thing is a machine. Hopefully we didn't smoke the head gaskets on this thing. It didn't take much coolant, and the oil wasn't over full, so we should be fine. It's an LS. They don't mind heat. All right, got her up to speed. Something doesn't seem happy in that rear end. Guess we should have pulled the rear cover off and checked it out, but we're gonna go ahead and put a few miles on it, see what happens. Hopefully we don't die. Ah, she is hurting. Bad news. Made her about 5 miles, and she's at 270, so I think we cooked the old LS, unfortunately. Tech tip of the day, don't get your LS up to 280 degrees. Well, as we wait for Chin to bring the roll back, let's check the coolant, I guess. Maybe it's low. I don't know. It was awful fast. We got 1, 2, probably 4 miles is all. And it wasn't idling for very long, so who knows. Maybe there's an air pocket. Well, I dumped almost a gallon of coolant in, and it's down to 210, so maybe we'll see if we can't squeeze some more coolant in. It must have been an air pocket. 212. It's full. Upper radiator hose ain't stiff though, like it's opening the thermostat. She's warm though. 217, 219. There we go. Hold it up, ready to go. Everybody needs a rollback. Wish the fuel gauge worked in the old 92. Hopefully I don't run out. Have fun! Can you do that again? Did you learn that from Jackie Chan? Maybe. Definitely gonna be late for my museum board meeting now. Whoops. Oh, AC is nice though, and cruise. Dang it, that band was working so good till it wasn't. Except for that rear end is kind of growly. We'll have to dig into that. Shout out to Chin and Mojo for getting this thing home and getting her in the shop. I did get another half gallon of coolant in there, so I did a little research, called some buddies who got LS's, and they said it could be a head gasket, but more than likely you got an air pocket in there. So we're gonna keep dumping coolant in it and see if we can't get her filled up and not have to do a head gasket or swap a motor. So I think I've already put a half gallon in there or so. So we're gonna fire it up, let it run for a little bit, and see what happens. It's fine, right, Duff? We don't want to ruin our 5.3 LS. We're definitely getting some bubbles. So here's what I'm thinking. If it was an air pocket in the system, as those bubbles come out, the level of fluid in that funnel should go down. If it's compression, that level is going to stay the same. So we'll keep an eye on that level. So far, it's going down. I had her right up to the ridge, and she's going down a little bit, but we're still getting a lot of bubbles. We've been running a while. Filled it right up to this ridge right here, so we'll see what it does. There's definitely air bubbles in there. Oh yeah, she's already going down. Now we gotta figure out where all that coolant went that we're putting in there because it was full before. All right, the bubbles have stopped. We squeeze this, we get bubbles, so I guess that means that it should be full up to there, maybe? That looks like a good spot for an air pocket to sit, doesn't it? That hose is sitting higher than that fill cap. What are we doing for temp, Duff? 162, 163. I think I'm gonna put the cap on it and let her idle for a bit, see what it does. Let it go nuclear in the yard. We're gonna take her for a test drive, see if it stays cool, and see if that driveline noise is still there, which I'm guessing it is. I hope it's not that rear end. We're also, you know, messing around with the hanger bearing, so maybe that's what it is. That sounds a lot easier to replace than another rear end, because I'm gonna have to pull another one out. And every rear end I got that I would pull out, I don't know anything about the condition of them, kind of like this one. We're doing 20 miles an hour in town. You guys hear that? It shouldn't be hard to find because it is awful growly. I did hear some noise in the rear end when I was messing with it, but I feel like it was the brakes, and it probably wasn't the brakes. We had this thing, the frame sitting leaned up against a tree vertical, so I'm wondering if all the water ran to the back, or the oil, or there got water in it, or we didn't have oil to the bearings, but it was making it right off the bat, so whatever it is, it was like that before I put it in there. So super excited to find another rear end and weld shock brackets on it, and bleed the brakes and all that other stuff. Great. Well, we got our farm fresh eggs and some waters in a basket for the parts washer and some cereal. No issues other than that rear end. Sounds like a den of hungry lions. I guess we'll put her on the lift and try to figure out what that is. All right, let's do a visual kind of inspection before we start ripping anything. I don't think it's the hanger bearing. I want it to be the hanger bearing because it's easy to replace, but I've never heard a growling noise like that. It seems like a diff related. So either an axle bearing or a pinion bearing, or the I suppose it'd be called a carrier bearing in the diff. I don't know. That doesn't sound bad. I did notice when I swapped these wheels that the brake drums have never been off. They still have the clips on the studs. I mean, I can hear a little brake noise. How about end play? No end play. Good there. These U-joints look like they're pretty new, low mileage, and if they were making the noise, and if they were bound up or there was issues, you'd have felt it when we had it off. Everything seems all right there. Do we have it in phase? Yep. That's lined up with that. So, it's not that. Pinion bearing seems nice and tight. I don't feel any heat anywhere. It's a mystery. I guess we slid this ahead a little bit, but the transmission doesn't feel any hotter than the rest of the transmission. Thought maybe if we shoved this in too far, it could have screwed up the input shaft or output shaft. No heat in our hanger bearing. Whatever it was, I feel like we should know because it was grinding. Should be adding some heat to it. Metal on metal is what it sounded like. Well, since our initial visual inspection went so well, let's take the diff off and see what it looks like in there. And hopefully we find something. Otherwise, I don't know what we're gonna do. We're just gonna keep digging until we find it. We can't put mufflers on it because whatever this noise is back here would overpower them. So let's just leave the mufflers off for now and figure out why the diff's growly. All right, how's she gonna look? Oh, milkshakey. Maybe there's just some rust grinding around in there. Who wants chocolate milkshake? Oh, frothy. Ew. Oh yeah, sure enough, our ring gear is pretty bad shape. Also, see the distance between this mating surface and out to here? Like the thickness right there between the teeth and that mating surface? That means it's a really tall gear ratio, so like a 273. The thicker that is, the, I don't know, the lower the gear ratio, like a 410 would be a super thick distance there. Oh, doesn't even wash off. This thing's had water in it for way too long. Son of a... See all the pitting on the spider gears and also on the ring gear? Yeah, that's what's making all our noise. Really, it would probably run like this for a long time, but it's super noisy. And also, if I'd have just checked the gear ratio before we put this in here, I'd have noticed this and said, hey, we should probably not put that rear end in there. So the only way to fix this is to change the gear ratio, but I think they have different carriers, so you'd have to change the carrier if you wanted to put a better ratio in it. I'm not gonna buy the same ratio because it's a terrible ratio. And then if you buy a carrier, you might as well go to a posi, and then you gotta buy gears, and then it's real money. There we go, what do we got? 14 and 47. Yeah, my bad. 17 and 47, which equals a 276. Yeah. Maybe they'll just wear in. Throw some really thick gear oil in there. You know, they don't look that bad. Okay. When they sat in the water, they look terrible. Oh yeah, that was definitely the side of the... Well, that's interesting. The pinion is date coded 10 of 78. I'm pretty sure it was a 78 round headlight. I didn't get the cab with it, but I think the 5.7 was the 78 model. So it's a 1978 276. Real choice gears. Well, that sucks. We could keep running it. It would probably run for a really long time, but that's a really annoying noise. And you guys know me. I love annoying noises. Even the rear cover is plastered with crap. So the part that really bothers me is welding the shock brackets on. So I have to cut those off and weld them back on again. Otherwise, it's pretty much a direct bolt in now. Fantastic. I'm gonna go grab some coffee and evaluate my life decisions. Up next, I don't know what this thing is. It's a Big 10. You can tell by the way that it is.
This is an aspen. You can tell that it's an aspen tree because of the way it is.
Anyway, giant stack of busted leaf springs on this thing. Drug this out of the trees. The first one I grabbed, the rear diff cover was rusted through, so I got a feeling that that one's no good. But this one, the wheel skidded the whole way, and it's not locked up like it's in the brakes. And the previous owner pulled the drive shaft off, so I wonder if this is why they parked it. Anyway, I'm gonna pop the rear cover off and see how it looks. What kind of goo is gonna come out this guy's back door? Ooh, looks like oil. I'll take it, better than the last one. Oh, of course the wind is gonna blow that everywhere. Why does that axle not turn? Okay, it is in the brake drum. I think we're all right. Also, looks like it's got a way better gear ratio. It's thicker in there. Sure looks like about a 308 to me. 1443 it looks like. 307s, that'll work. Let's get her out of there. The old telehandler makes life pretty easy for swapping diffs. Let's roll this thing inside. We'll have to cut those shock mounts off and weld new ones on, but we're good at that. Oh yeah, we gotta get this brake loosened up too. I'm sure the wheel cylinders are just fine. But check this out, I opened this guy up. Look at that terrible welding. I thought maybe we could just swap the old spider gears, but no, they welded the spiders right to the carrier, which is a no-no. I don't know if you know if you'd call that welded. That's some pretty terrible stuff. That's some DD Hack Shop stuff there. But check this out. This thing is built in April of '66. It's a Dana 44, obviously. And it's 354s. What is it? 46 to 13. So 354 gears. That would have been nice to keep. Unfortunately, we need to find spider gears at a minimum. Maybe we can clean up that carrier, but it probably needs a carrier. So 307 12 bolt it is. It's like we just went through all this. Gwinner up your regular scheduled shenanigan to bring you this Mortske minute on the Dana 44. Dana Incorporated was established in 1904 under the name of Spicer. You may have heard that before. It started in World War II building Jeep axles. The Dana 44 was first used by Ford in the 1955 T-Bird. Yes, that's right, the first year T-Bird. They also used them in pickups and even AC Cobras. In the 1960s, Jeep and International Scouts started using the Dana 44s. Soon followed the Chevrolet Blazer, the Dodge Ram Charger, and the Ford Bronco. In the 1990s, Isuzu, Rodeo, and Amigos adopted the Dana 44 as well. They also made independent rear suspension versions for Corvettes, Jaguars, and even Vipers. Over the years, they offered 5, 6, and 8 lug versions available for fronts and rear differentials, and gear ratios ranging from 272 all the way up to 589. So there you have it. All the worthless information you never wanted to know about the Dana 44. Now back to your regular scheduled shenanigans. Man, I could put a rear diff in a 1967 GMC with leaf springs in my sleep now, I think. I know all the tools required, but let's get this brake drum off and see what's going on here, why this side don't turn. Probably should have done that before I put it in here, but I'm confident between that thing and the spare diff we got here, we should be able to make her work. Yeah, she's, what's going on there? Oh, it's sliding on the shoes, I bet. I wonder if we put a big bar on them studs. This never works, but we're trying anyway. No, I'm just gonna bend the studs. All right, the Astro brake drum ruiner it is. All right, here goes nothing. Slipped off. Good grief. Yep, we're gonna have to put some brake parts in. What the French toast? Finally got this disaster apart. These shoes are about shot, and they're definitely shot now. So let's just take that all apart and see if we can't get some brake parts out of that rear end to put into this rear end. You guys have seen drum brake jobs a gazillion times before, so shouldn't have to show you. If we find something crazy, we'll bring it out. Here we go. Got the brakes installed. Had a new wheel cylinder laying around. I wish I had some new shoes because these ones are pretty much smoked. And guess what? I took the wrong side apart on that diff, so I had to take both sides apart. And the only reason that matters is because this adjuster is side specific. There's a right-hand thread and a left-hand thread. But anyway, everything looks good here other than these shoes. I usually try to keep all the rubber components on hand, you know, wheel cylinders, hoses, stuff like that, but I don't keep shoes on hand. These are 2 3/4 wide. I think they have 2 different options. I'm not sure what the other one is. But anyway, I'll know to have some shoes on hand next time. Let's get this thing thrown back together. Hopefully that other side bleeds up. Worst case scenario, we got to steal the wheel cylinder out of that rear end and put in this one. All right, guys, we are back on this 67 GMC. I did a little more work on the rear end, but anyway, yesterday, early afternoon, I got a phone call. A phone call that nobody wants to receive. It's from our local sheriff's department. A very good friend of mine that goes back 35 years, probably one of my oldest friends. He lost his life to mental health issues, and so obviously I had to step away from the camera. And with this platform that I have, I feel like if I can help one person, it's worth it. So I'm gonna put this out there. Everybody knows 911, 988. That's the suicide prevention hotline. It's 24 hours a day. It's English, it's Spanish, it's confidential. If you or anybody you know needs help, give it a call, 988. If we can help one person, it was worth it. But so that's what I'm dealing with right now, and we'll get this done. He was a car guy. He just got a 70 green Monte Carlo that's been in the area forever. It came up for sale, and he messaged me, and I said get that car. I knew he'd been looking for a Chevelle for a while, and we all know Chevelle prices are through the roof, and he got that Monte Carlo a couple years ago, and he was just over the moon with it. It's actually the car pictured in with our Mortske, the dew caps. He just happened to be here when we got those caps in, so I asked if I could take some pictures on his car, and he said absolutely. And I think from then on, he was rocking one of our hats, and he was always wearing our swag when new stuff came out. He'd come pick some up, and he was a great great friend and a great supporter of the channel. So 988. Remember it, guys. If you ever need it, there's help out there. If that's not the way, they do text as well. If you need anything, you know, if we can help, you know, we read all the comments. You can hit us at mortskerepair@gmail.com. You know, if we can help one person, it was worth it. So now back to your regularly scheduled shenanigans, guys. Who's a good boy? All right, the shock brackets are on for the 94th time. Let me show you what I got going on with this front clip. I think they had the whole, well, I know they had the whole thing off when they put this LS in it, but we keep finding more stuff that's missing, like the body mount bolts, missing. Bolts through the inner fender to the firewall, missing. Bolts from the lower fender to the firewall, you guessed it, missing. I'm trying to get those in there so that front end don't fall off, because that's not something I've ever had happen, and it's not something I want happening on my watch. Got the brakes bled, got the wheels back on, I got some hardware in the front clip. Now we're gonna try to muffle this thing down, because I can't hear myself think, and I really despise loud exhaust. I just got the Roadster out for the season. That thing needs exhaust, open headers. No bueno. Anyway, I got some 2.5-inch MagnaFlows. Let's throw on this thing so that maybe we can do a test drive and actually film, because it's so freaking loud in there. I got these MagnaFlows. They're 2.5-inch stainless steel. They got a center inlet or offset outlet, or offset inlet, center outlet. Either way, it's doesn't have a direction on it. So we're gonna throw that on there. And guess what? They sent some decals. So somebody who goes to mortske.com and orders a decal is gonna get a chance to get a couple of those thrown in with their order. And not only do you get a chance at those, you get a chance at winning the 1998 Chevrolet LS swapped OBS with a 5-speed short bed. Super great pickup. It's super fun. I'm super sad to see it leave, but I'm excited to see somebody win that thing and $3,000 cash, along with 5 runners up who get $100 a piece. And if you don't want the pickup, we'll give you 20,000 bucks and I'll keep the pickup. So head on over to mortske.com for more details. Every dollar you spend qualifies to win that thing. It doesn't matter if it's cap, sweatshirt, t-shirt, banners, you name it, we got it. And like I said, if you get a decal, you get a chance to win the pickup, and you also get a chance that you might get some MagnaFlow decals in there as well, because I think there's 3 with this muffler and 3 with that muffler. So there's 6 MagnaFlow mufflers in there. Heck, I might even get crazy and sign them. Anyway, back to the MagnaFlows. I think I'm gonna try to put the end of the MagnaFlow right here so we can use this hanger and a clamp all in one shot. So I think I gotta cut her off right there. I don't know if we gotta do some flaring or not, but our muffler is gonna sit right there. I think we're gonna have to move this bracket over, so we might have to drill a hole, but it should be way better than it was. All right, let me show you what we got going on here. I'm real excited to not hear it as much as I did before. The exit's pretty much the same. Long term, if I kept it, I'd like to put a tailpipe on it. Speaking of long term, if you'd like to own this thing, price and availability in the video description. As is, no warranty implied. This 5.3 will probably make you home, but she's been nuclear. But anyway, I would put tailpipes on it all the way out the back, just because I'm not a side exit, side pipe guy. But it's way better than it was before. We got a hanger over here on the frame. I moved this hanger over, so we doubled the amount of hangers that we got here. And then we added this MagnaFlow in there. So should be way more gooder than it was. Before, all this tailpipe was just kind of hanging out in the open. Kind of like this one is right here. Anyway, I'm gonna do the other side up quick. Oh my goodness, side pipes, they are not my jam, but I'm not gonna trim them up or modify them, because if I'm gonna spend any work on it, it's gonna be put tailpipes on it. But we ain't got time for that today. Let's see how they sound and take her for a test drive. Oh yeah, way more tolerable. Let me grab my shades and my dog, and let's go for a rip. Hopefully this differential is a whole lot quieter, and also we got a little bit better gear ratio out of the deal, so maybe our test drive will go better than the last couple. Dang old brake pedal don't want to return, so our brake lights are staying on. So I don't know if it's the return spring or if it's the master cylinder or what's going on there. But the brake light switch is adjusted all the way out, so there's nothing there. But look what I did find. The horn button. And the rubber's on it, but the cup that the rubber slides into to hold it in the steering wheel, MIA. So we've got to find that. But that's the hard part to find, I would say, especially a GMC one. Speaking of finding things, let's go see if we can find Duff. Mojo is out doing tractor stuff in the trees, so I'm guessing he's out there hanging out with him, farming. Ooh, brakes feel good. Still got a little exhaust leak. That's the other thing, when you don't put multiple hangers on, things flex and spin and rotate, and gives you exhaust leaks. So do your exhaust upright, kids. Hey, there's my boy. 100 degrees. Keep an eye on that OBD2 temp gauge while you're here. So, I want to go look at a car I found last night. I went for a little cruise in the Roadster because that's what I like to do when it's nice out. And a local town stumbled across a 56 Chevy that was dug out of a barn, I guess. I got a hold of my buddy today and he said, "You're about the 32nd person to ask me about that. It ain't for sale." And I said, "You know who's got it?" And he said, "Yeah, I talked to them. They said they don't want to sell it." I said, "Well," and I said, "Well, the worst thing they do is say no if I make them an offer." And he goes, "You know, if you make them a fair offer, it's worth a shot." So we're gonna go look it over, shoot them a fair price, and maybe we'll end up with it, maybe we don't. You can't win if you don't play though, right, Duff? You look played out. This thing is so much quieter. If I patch the holes in the floor and the firewall, fix the exhaust leak, threw some flooring in it, sealed up the windows, this thing would be a pretty sweet driver inside. Maybe even throw a radio in it and enjoy it. That's the beauty of LS's. They overdrive, this thing should cruise 70 at like 2,000 RPMs. The overdrive and the 307s, the tall tires on the back. And maybe even get some fuel economy while you're doing it. If you can't tell, I'm a proponent of the LS swaps. This thing is so much better with power steering. I would say put power brakes and disc brakes on it, or just add power to the brakes because it just makes them stop better. Also, I talked to a local guy who knows way more about these than I do, and you can swap 6-lug axles and 5-lug axles in the square bodies. I don't know, about 67 to 72, but you can take 4-wheel drive axles and slide into this 2-wheel drive diff, or vice versa, so you can get the bolt pattern back there. But if I were to keep this thing, I would probably get the right ball joints and then just get the spindles and everything, power brake, master cylinder proportion valve, all of that off the square body, and then just go to 5-lug. And while you got the ball joint split, you know, take a couple coils out, put a flip kit in the rear, get her down on the ground. Then you'd have 5-lug all the way around, and you'd have power disc brakes and super cheap square body parts. Obviously, we know it needs some shoes in the back, and I would probably throw a new wheel cylinder in that side because I only had one. But all the hoses are new. Looked like there was new wheel cylinders up front. So, brake-wise, it needs a little bit of love, but it should be a pretty good rig. All right, let's go for a cruise. Temp is sitting at 198, right about that 200, 210. That's where an LS is pretty much going to run at. So just run them nice and cool. I stated how much quieter this thing is. You know why it's also quieter? We don't have a rear end that sounds like it did a Hungry Lion. So nice improvement there. Looks like the speedometer is about 5 to 7 miles an hour off. Well, what it says on the OBD2. So the guy should probably get that reprogrammed. But honestly, if I was going to keep this thing, I would probably find like a 373 limited slip, like an Eden True Track, and put in there. That really wakes these LS's up. They like the RPMs. And then, you know, having a correct two-wheel feel instead of a Lincoln Locker makes them a lot more fun to, you know, do LS things per se. What do you think, Duff? Suppose we'll do a burnout? How come our low card? Oh, there's a low. There we go. All right. First burnout attempt in the old LS. Oh yeah! Oh, I wanted to shift into second right away. Won't this thing hold it? Okay, there's brake springs out of a semi truck that somebody lost. Whoops. Oh yeah! That's a pretty good one, Duff. You almost need a two-wheel feel with an LS. It just annihilates one tire. There it is, Duff. Let's go take a look. Now, my buddy said this thing's been sitting in a building for 30 plus years, his whole life. Looks like it's got South Dakota plates on it. She's a 56 150, judging by the trim. soggy in the quarters. Looks like it was a 3 on the tree car. Floors, of course, gone. But pretty neat car nonetheless. It's too bad it wasn't a little bit better shape when they put her inside. Rotted out in the eyebrows, per usual. Engine's gone. I don't know if it was a V8 or a 6-cylinder car. I don't know enough about these things. That's the old DD Speed Shop's area of expertise. Oh, it's got the old race car wheels on the outside to keep them from blowing out. They got it on the wrong side of the car though. Really ain't that bad. This quarter's a lot better, but there's a little bit of rust down there. And there's a little crease. And somebody's done some body work on the door, but overall, pretty decent car. Missing the rear bumper. Taillights are bunged up. Cool enough car though. Look at that horn button. That's a pretty neat one. Factory radio delete. It does have a heater though. Of course, all the garnishings and stuff are missing. Got some potential though. Glad we came and looked her over. Well, there you have it. 56 Chevy. Checked her out. It's always fun to go look at old cars. It's especially fun to go do it with Duff because he likes hunting and looking for critters, and it's fun to do it in an old car. And plus, if you're gonna go try to buy a car and you pull up in an old car, people know that you're an old car guy and that you're probably gonna do old car things with it instead of just let it sit out back. Anyway, carrying on. Let's see if we can make her back. Oh, you gotta love the way now LS just fires right up. Looks like we're sitting at 203 degrees, about right where you want to be with an LS. Duff's eyeballing this calico cat that's crossing the road. Wants to tear it loose. It's a nice kitty, ain't it, Duff? It's a nice kitty. Speaking of kitties, did you know we got a kitty? Jackie Chan. I filmed him with my iPhone last night. Jackie. What have you been doing? Ninja cat things? Everybody wants to see you. They don't think you exist, but Jackie doesn't come out till after dark. He's doing ninja cat things all day. Aren't you, buddy? Yeah, Jackie Chan, the ninja cat. So, this is Jackie Chan, folks. Guess he's camera shy. He likes rubbing up on you, though. You're kind of like a dog. If you go walk around at night, he'll follow you around. But him and Duff don't get along, so... That's why you only come to the patio door at night, because Duff chases you up trees or under cars. All right, there you go, folks. Jackie Chan, say hi. Say bye. Meow. All right, not so vocal. What do you think she'll do from a roll, Duff? Hang on. Oh yeah, she falls pretty good. All right, made it home safe and sound, no issues. Runs at 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and yeah, no complaints. It's a lot better than it was when we got it. It's quieter. The rear end doesn't push around corners. It steers great. It stops a lot better than it did. Yeah, it's a lot mucho better, oh Duffo. Don't get me wrong, still needs a few things. Price and availability in the video description. Hit us up, mortskerepair@gmail.com. If you want to own this thing, and really, I think you could drive it home. Grab yourself a Bluetooth speaker for a radio and maybe some HVAC tape to put over the holes in the floor and the firewall to make your ride a little bit better. And yeah, I think this thing would be pretty good. And then fix the little stuff when you get home. Check this out, Duff says. Buick It's a beauty too. Just like you, Duff, you're a beauty. Those must be Buick visors apparently, because that looks like that mirror is built right into it. God, that's cool. They don't do anything cool like that anymore. New cars just aren't cool, are they, Duff? Definitely not as cool as the old ones. There's our exhaust leak. Dropped the pipe down on the driver's side. You can see where it's all sooty. That's where it was leaking towards the frame rail. Same deal on the manifold. You can see where it's all sooty, but I think the pipe was rubbing right there on the frame rail, and that's why it was leaking. So I'm gonna have to make some clearance once we find a new gasket. You can see that shiny spot right there where it was rubbing. You can see where they beat the crap out of the pipe for clearance, but they missed. So I'm gonna beat on it just a little bit more. Little double hammer action. All right, folks, there you have it. 1967 GMC LS swapped. I paid $4 grand for this thing, and I think I stole it. And no, I'm not gonna sell it for $4 grand, but we got it on the road. We didn't throw much money at it. Those Flowmasters were probably far and away the most expensive part. The wheels I had laying around, the diff I had laying around. I don't know, what else did we do to this thing? Oh, the power steering, all that stuff. Had that laying around. That made it so much gooder. I would put a chrome bumper on it. I like chrome bumpers on these things. Like I said, tailpipe. I don't know, maybe fix a little rust, the cup and the fender and the rocker panel, but that doesn't really bother me. It's got a ton of dings. Where do you quit? Maybe we throw a floor in it and some carpet. Definitely needs the window regulators taken apart and lubricated, and while you're in there you might as well just throw new seals on the doors. But it is not rusty above the windshield like the other 67 is. That one's bad. Fix the horn cap, just drive the crap out of it. She looks pretty good. Maybe put some power brakes on it. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Go check out the other videos, and remember, it doesn't matter, get done as long as you're having fun.